Oh, yeah.
Let's just sit for a couple of minutes before we start.
Yeah.
So we're on the first part of the quote, which is looking at the mind. In other words, the basis, the nature of phenomena versus nature on a conventional level of phenomena. And so we're looking at the mind and what the mind is made up of. We said that you look at it from 3 points of view: from the cause, the function, and the entity of the mind. Now, the points we're going through here, the 1 to 5 points, 5 points, are looking from both the function and the entity of the mind. That's the way it's looking at the mind. So we're looking what does a mind consist of? What does a mind consist of? What is it that makes up a mind? What are the parts and things which go together to be what we call a mind, a consciousness, and also what are the functions of that. So they're both contained within these 5 things here: the entity and the function of the mind. So now we divide the mind up in various different ways. First of all, as I said earlier in the beginning, we're talking about 6 consciousnesses, 6 senses, not 5. Actually, before we... Never mind. So it's 6 senses. You've got the 5 normal senses: the eye, the ear, nose, tongue, body. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. That 5? Mm-hmm. Eye, ear, nose, yes. Sorry. The 5 senses, and then you've got the mental sense. So you've got that division there. So when you divide it in that way, in the sense or mental consciousness, then obviously we've got eye consciousness, we've got ear consciousness, we've got nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness as the five senses. And then the sixth one is mental consciousness. Now, how do we distinguish whether something is a sense consciousness or a mental consciousness? What's the difference? How do you know whether something is one or the other? Because if you think about consciousness in a general way, I don't think it's Buddhist positions, it's non-Buddhist positions. Some talk about one consciousness. There are different, in generally, in fact, the lower Buddhist schools, is it talk about this? I think it is. I haven't done tenets for a while, but I think it is. Within Buddhist presentations of the mind, some people talk about one consciousness. Some people talk about six. Six is the normal. Other schools talk about 8 consciousnesses. As I say, generally 6 is the most widely accepted one, and is the sort of highest Prasangika point of view one. When we talk about one consciousness, the people who say one consciousness say that although there are different consciousnesses, we see things and we hear things and we think about things. It's like they say it's like a monkey in a house. Have you heard this analogy before? A monkey in a house, and there's a house with 6 windows. And when the monkey is in this window, then you call it an eye consciousness. When he's in this window, you call it a taste. And when he's in that one, you call it mental. So it's all one consciousness, but it's just that the monkey goes to different windows. So
could you have more than one consciousness operating at one time in that scenario?
Well, you can in I see what you mean. You can have more than one consciousness operating at the same time, but then I suppose it would be
2 monkeys.
2 monkeys, yeah.
Can you? Because if the mind is having an opinion or opposite or what have you of whatever I see, there's that delay, isn't it? See it and that happen, although it might be just.
You can have 2 at the same time.
And then the next thing is the next thing is the next thing is the next thing. So it's never doing what it does with the thing that I'm seeing.
It can, because you can be driving along and you can be changing gear and talking to a friend and looking out if there's a car coming, if you're going to smash into the car in front of you at the same time, can't you?
But does my mind interact with all those things at the same time? Or
If
is
they
it that and that
they
and
can,
that and that and
the only
that?
way that can happen is if they're different consciousnesses. So you can't have 2 ear consciousnesses at the same time. You can't be listening to 2 different things at the same time. But you can be listening and looking at the same time.
Right, okay.
So you can.
But the mind's only on one of them.
No, one can be doing both. You can be doing both at the same time. You can be listening and thinking and looking at the same time. You can do that.
There are a few monkeys in the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of monkeys in this house.
Monkeys in the house, yeah.
It's a monkey house.
But yeah, I mean that's the problem with the presentation of one consciousness, is that you couldn't do the things at the same time, could you?
Yeah.
So that's why just one monkey and looking out the windows is not the correct way.
Just for instance, when catching a ball, you've got more than, so you've got your touch consciousness and your sight as well playing together.
Yeah. The distinction as to whether a mind can do 2 things at the same time, or whether there can be 2 consciousnesses, is whether what isn't possible is for 2 consciousnesses to have which have the same uncommon empowering condition to arise at the same time. Now we need to explain what that is.
Say again, sorry.
You've got this defined according to whether they're uncommon empowering condition. An uncommon empowering condition. So the way you distinguish between sense and mental consciousness, where you can tell whether a consciousness is a sense one or a mental consciousness, is depending upon its uncommon empowering condition. Now, for a sense consciousness, the uncommon generally a consciousness has consciousnesses have empowering conditions and uncommon empowering conditions. Now, an empowering condition would just be the condition for the consciousness. So if you take a mind looking at a table. The table is one of the causes of that mind, isn't it? But it's not. It can be the cause of looking. If you're looking at a table, it's the cause of the eye consciousness looking at the table, and if you're thinking about the table, it's also the cause of the mind thinking about the table. It's the cause of both, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it's not uncommon to merely eyesight. Right? It's not the uncommon cause of only an eyesight seeing a table. It's common to a number of different consciousnesses. In fact, you can have three, can't you? You can be touching the table, so you've got a touch consciousness, looking at it, thinking about it. Can't really be tasting it. You could maybe if you can you be smelling? You could be smelling it.
Yeah. Squeak.
Yeah. And hearing it, well, yeah. But you can have a number of different consciousnesses, and they've all got the table as one of their conditions. The table is the condition for all of them. But they all have unique uncommon. The reason why we use the word uncommon is they all have unique uncommon empowering condition. So the uncommon empowering condition is what's unique to a particular consciousness. So for an eye consciousness, therefore, it will be what we call the eye sense power. The eye sense power.
Is that the faculty? Also known as the faculty.
Yeah. And the eye sense power is not. I mean, really, if we simplify what we mean by it, it's the eye. The eye provides or the ear, or the touch, or your nerves in your body. It isn't what it is according to the text, but this is an easier way to understand what it is. The ear provides the conditions for you to be able to hear things. The eyes provide conditions. Now, eye sense power is not actually an eye, according to the text. It's a very subtle form inside the eye, which allows you to see. And this is supposed to be very, very not. You can't see it with a normal eye. You can't see it with your eye. But it's a physical. Well, the trouble is nobody's ever seen it, so it's difficult to describe. But it's supposed to be a very subtle form within the eye, which allows you to be able to see. That's the uncommon empowering, and so that's unique to the eye. So it's only an eye consciousness has that. An ear consciousness has an ear sense power, and because it's the uncommon empowering condition of hearing something is the ear sense power. And likewise with the body, with the smell, and with the taste. There's an empowering condition, which is the main condition, and then there's the uncommon empowering condition, which is unique. So for all sense consciousnesses, the uncommon empowering condition is a sense power, and that's a physical thing. It's an atomically established physical thing, although it's very subtle, not something you can't see with normal senses. But the uncommon empowering condition for a mental sense power for a mental consciousness is a mental sense power, and a mental sense power is a mind. So an empowering condition is a condition, right, for something to arise. A condition for something to arise, but generally we talk about causes and we talk about conditions. Causes are, both of them, if it's a cause it's also a condition, but if it's a condition it's not necessarily a cause. So I won't go into too much on this, especially just after lunch. But basically, a condition must arise before something, mustn't it? A cause of something arises before the event, doesn't it? A seed of a plant is a cause of a plant because it arises and then the plant comes out of it, yes? Causes arrive before. Same thing with conditions. So the condition for an eye consciousness will be the eye sense power a moment before the eye consciousness, not at the same time, but a moment before. So in other words, an object appears to the eye consciousness because of the ability of the eye sense power, the eye consciousness is generated. Right? So, and it's uncommon to eye consciousness because it's only the eye sense power will only work for an eye consciousness. It won't work for an ear consciousness or a mental consciousness. So it's an uncommon empowering condition. The uncommon empowering condition for a mental sense power is a mental consciousness, is a mind. But of course it's the mind in the previous moment. It's not at the same time. So when you're thinking about something, the cause of thinking about that is the previous moment of mind. Now that previous moment of mind could be a mental consciousness or it could be a sense consciousness. So in other words, for a mental consciousness, what can happen is you can see something and then you start to think about it. Yes? So you see something, you get an eye consciousness seeing a microphone. One moment after that, you're thinking about a microphone. So the uncommon empowering condition of the eyesight seeing the microphone is the eye sense power. The uncommon empowering condition for thinking about the microphone is the eye consciousness. Is the eye seeing the microphone? Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a mind, which is a sense consciousness, becomes the cause of the mental consciousness. Now,
without the mental consciousness, if you just had the sense consciousnesses, presumably you'd be in the present, you could live in the present moment forever, wouldn't be able to reflect on anything.
Reflection, or not being in the moment, is a function of conceptual consciousness, yes.
Yeah.
And sense consciousnesses are always non-conceptual. So from that point of view, yes, you're right. But mental consciousnesses can be conceptual or non-conceptual.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily be not mental.
Yeah.
See what I mean? The point there being that we'll come to it because we'll get to the other things it makes more clear.
Mental consciousness can be non-conceptual.
Mental consciousness can be both.
You've got an example of non-conceptual.
Yeah, good question.
Direct insight to emptiness.
Well, yes.
That's how you can do
So,
it.
yeah,
There
a
are
non-conceptual experience.
Yeah.
It's not- yeah.
there are very few actually.
Not done it.
Well, there are lots, but in fact there are loads, but
Yeah.
there are very few which we know about.
Yeah.
Let's get to the next one because it comes out into that and it'll be clearer when we do it that way.
Okay.
Is that clear on just for the first one then? Sense and is it clear what's the difference between a sense and a mental consciousness?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Sense and mental.
Well,
Shall listen to it again.
Is it experientially? Is it clear? What are you talking about when you're talking about senses? It's when you're looking at something or you're hearing something. It's important for meditation to distinguish between these two.
Yeah.
The other ones, it's important for understanding the philosophy behind everything we do and the way we think, especially conceptual and non-conceptual. But the important thing with differentiating and making clear in your mind what is a sense consciousness and what is a mental consciousness is that when you come to meditate on the mind, like the meditation we did before lunch, and the one we'll do again this afternoon, you're staying with your awareness. And what impinges on your awareness? It's either something from the outside or it's something from the inside. Isn't it? Those two things, basically.
Yeah.
And if you want to stay with just awareness and not be involved and not be affected by external conditions, the external conditions you're talking about are either out there or in here. There's no other possibilities, one or the other, isn't it? So therefore they're either conditions which affect your sense consciousness or they're conditions which affect your mental consciousness. So if it's sense, it's going to be something out there in the world, isn't it? It's going to be, well, that's not to say that delineates them, but what disturbs your meditation and affects your sense consciousness will be something you hear or see or feel. Yes? Whereas what will disturb you from a mental consciousness point of view when you're meditating will be your thoughts.
They're far more disturbing as well, they're much more dangerous,
They are.
hard to control.
So, But what's important from the point of view of meditation, when you're meditating on the mind, is to be clear about those two things, because it makes it much easier when you're sitting there meditating on the mind if you know, well, what's going to cause me problems? It's going to be either something out there or something in here. And if I can deal with both of those things, then I'll be able to stay with my awareness. It's knowing your enemy, basically. If you want to be meditating on the mind, you want to be aware of what is it which is going to stop me being able to meditate on the mind. What's going to get in the way? It's going to be a hindrance to me. And it's either going to be one of those external things or one of the internal things.
I think I'm getting confused with, it might just be what I've written down. Is the mental consciousness, is that, can you say again what I've written down mental sense power, and I don't understand what
uncommon, the way we differentiate between a sense and a mental consciousness, to distinguish whether one or the other, is that if it's a sense consciousness, its uncommon empowering condition will be a physical sense power. So an eye, an ear, a nose, or a body.
Okay.
If it's a mental consciousness, then its uncommon empowering condition will be a mental sense power. And a mental sense power is a mind. So in other words, the uncommon empowering condition means the particular condition which enables that consciousness to come into being. And for an eye consciousness, that's an eye, isn't it? For a smell consciousness, it's a nose. Or at least it's not, but we'll leave it at that. And it's like that. And for hearing something, it's the ear, and so on. And for tasting something, it's the tongue. And for feeling something, it's the body.
I can see that for the physical sense ones, but I'm getting muddled with
Right.
mental
And for the
ones.
mental sense power, it can't be a physical thing, because otherwise it would be, because it's not connected with the physical world, really, is it? It's just a consciousness. So its uncommon empowering condition will be a previous moment of mind.
Ah, okay.
So what we mean by a mental sense power
Right.
is a previous moment of mind. And that previous moment of mind could be either mental or sense.
Right, okay.
Presumably you have two mental sense powers for the eyes, so it's two eye sense powers, for one for each eye, and same for hearing, one for each ear.
Good question, actually. Yes, I think so.
And for the touch,
I'm not 100% sure about that.
and for touch, what do you have for touch? Because you're all over your body, presumably.
It's all over the body, yeah. I've never really thought about that, to be honest. I'll check on that. Because, you see, when you die, the mental sense power itself ceases, but it continues as a potential on your subtle consciousness.
Right.
So you die and all your sense consciousness and all your gross consciousness dissolve in. Now what's left is your subtle, clear light mind.
Yeah.
But on that clear light mind, in a bit similar way to which karma is continued with that clear light mind, that's where karma continues as well, is the potential of sense powers. So there is a potential eye sense power there, there's a potential ear sense power, etc. There wouldn't need to be a potential mental sense power, because that's the mind anyway. So the five sense powers, the five physical sense powers, no longer become physical when you die, but still are there, and as a potential. So that would seem to indicate that the eye sense power is one thing, not necessarily two.
Yeah.
But that's funny, I don't know why I've never even thought about that.
Because like you say, like with nerves, for touch, I mean,
It's all over the body,
they'd
isn't
many,
it?
wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And taste as well.
Yeah, taste.
So that's why I think, off the top of my head, that sense power is a very subtle form within us, but not necessarily two of them.
Yeah.
for an eyes and ears, but just simply a potential, not potential, but a power within.
Do you know if you kind of meditate on like pain or something, so you've got an ache somewhere, but you can't find it when you actually look. You know it's there, you know your leg is hurting, but when you actually look for it, it's not coming from your leg, and it's hard to identify where it's coming from. And I wonder if you'd have a similar sensation if you tried to find taste, and maybe that sense is somewhere, but it's not.
Yes, I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about, but I don't know how
Funny thing to chase
that's
from.
necessarily related to sense power. I think the thing with pain and the interest, that's actually a fascinating topic, that, because the reason why you don't find pain is when you look for pain in your body, because pain doesn't exist. There is no such thing as pain. There is heat and movement within the body, and the mind comes along and calls it pain. Pain doesn't exist.
Do it do that through the touch, the feeling? sense?
It's the same principle. I mean, and that principle is that ultimately pain is not pain, because pain is merely labelled as pain. So if you look at it from the ultimate point of view, in terms of emptiness, pain is no more pain than table is a table. But even in the but the thing with pain and things like that is that not just from the ultimate level where they're not pain, but even on the conventional level, pain is not pain. Because whereas a table conventionally we can say is a table conventionally because it's used as a table, pain is even more unfindable than that, because when you analyse in meditation what pain is, and this is a practice you do, we don't do so much in our tradition, but certainly do in the Vipassana tradition, when you analyse pain, it's not pain, it's heat and movement. That's what it is. It's heat and movement in the body. I don't know if anybody else has done this when you do Vipassana and you analyse pain. It's not pain. It's only because you take that heat of movement, your mind sees that or senses that heat of movement and labels it as pain, and that's why you don't like it.
So there's unpleasant feeling, heat and movement then?
Yes.
I wonder how that differs from any other touch sensation that you're having, whether or not something's pleasant and you look for it.
It doesn't differ. It doesn't differ because it doesn't differ in the sense that it's just what it is in terms of movement. But if it's just movement, if it's an itch or it's just movement, if you recognise it's just being movement in the body or heat in the body, then that's correct. But if you're overlaying the conceptual addition of it being unpleasant or painful, there's no pain. There's nothing in there that's painful. There's nothing in the body that's painful. It's simply a label from your mind, and it's done, from the sensible point of view that if you don't recognise pain as pain, you won't do anything about it. But the reality is that pain is not pain. Pain is simply heat and movement. And if you, and that's why great beings who've got to that level can have pain but not suffer from it. We suffer from pain and we don't like pain and react badly to it because we label it as negative, not because it's inherently negative or leave out the word inherently, not because it's negative from its own side. It's just heat and movement from its own side. So those of you who know Lama Lundrup, one of my closest teachers, the abbot of Copeland Monastery. So I was there last month for his reincarnation. He's a little boy now. When he passed away, which was 2012, I think it was. I think it was about then. When he passed away, he died of stomach cancer. And he was going down for a couple of years, from when it was first diagnosed. And in the last year of his life, he was looked after by one Western nurse. But anyway, he was, as people do who have stomach cancer, he was deteriorating, his body was getting thinner and thinner, and he was obviously in what anyone else would experience as and recognise as being enormous pain, huge amounts of pain. And his nurse, I can't remember her name, anyway, I think she was English, nobody knows, it was an English woman, or maybe she was Australian, I can't remember. Anyway, no, I think she was Australian, who was looking after her. On a number of occasions, I heard this a few times from different people, on a number of occasions said to him, well, he never took any painkillers from the time he was diagnosed to the time he passed away. He never took a single painkiller. And his nurse kept on saying to him, could see that he was obviously must have been in massive pain, and kept on saying to him, Lama, please take some of these painkillers. And he would just look at her with a big smile on his face and say, what's wrong? You don't like pain? Because for him, yes, the physical thing that we all experience when we're in pain was happening, of course, but he wasn't labelling it as pain. He wasn't putting the negative connotation on it. He was just seeing it for what it is, which was just a lot of heat and movement. If you're in a lot of pain, that's what a lot of pain is. It's a lot of, and if
so would his mind have had to be, pretty mixed with emptiness to be able to actually see?
Not necessarily. I think in his case it was, but it's something which, if you ask of a long-term Vipassana meditator, it's not particularly a high-level thing to understand or do.
Okay.
In this few bit of Vipassana meditation which I've done, and I did a few months continuously in Burma, and it doesn't take. I'm not saying I've got to that point now, because now pain's pain for me. but when you're in the midst of that Vipassana meditation, you can do the same thing. You can see the heat and movement in your body, and just label it as, just use your mind to label it as heat and movement, not label it as pain.
I think what I wanted to highlight though is that when you're doing that, when you're looking at it and it's just heat and movement, it becomes separate from your leg, doesn't it? So you know that sensation's there, but it's not as if it's and that's why I wondered when we were talking about, is there two receivers or thousands for your nerves? Maybe there is one central one, because it becomes separate from. And with sound, maybe if you meditated on sound, you wouldn't necessarily sense or find it here in your ears. It kind of exists somewhere else. It loses its kind of stationary position once you really focus on it.
Have we not moved from the main mind though into the mental factors at this point? Because it sounds like there's that whether it's avert or not, when there's that degree of sort of discernment going on and labelling, and just things like the attention, the intention, the contact, and the always present mental factors, it doesn't sound so much like a main mind to me.
Here we're just talking about, we are talking about the main mind. We're just talking about the way that the mind knows whatever it's perceiving or conceiving of. We're not talking about the colouring or the accent on how it perceives it. We are, I suppose, to an extent when we say pain is recognised as pain or not.
Just when you're talking about whether
I think
you feel it all over the skin, or if it's to one eye or two eyes, to me that sounds like it's moved on another level. That
wouldn't necessarily be moving on to mental factors. What would be moving on to mental factors is when is how you react to heat and movement. So the thing is with pain, I'm not trying to go into the ultimate level here of it being empty. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking on a conventional level, normal everyday level, not going into emptiness. On a normal everyday level, what we conceive of as being pain, what is it? It's heat and movement in the body. It's not pain. How can it be pain? Pain is a mental creation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think your point of view though, because if I had an itch on my leg, I'd know that it was my leg that was itching. But when you start to focus on it, that sensation kind of loses, I don't know, its stationariness. So maybe you're right, maybe at that point I am kind of, it's a mental...
Well, it just seems once it's been labelled as itch, or there's the awareness there of
but no,
it seems that it's
without
gone
you
to a
labelling it, if
level.
you're just rest your awareness on that, it loses sort of its power somehow as being an itch on my leg.
Yeah.
So it is, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Is that me interpreting it then, and blah blah blah, or is it just that it isn't a stationary fixed thing, and actually I'm just
it's both.
being
It's both.
with it, or,
It's both, isn't it? It's your interpretation of it, yes, and it's also not a stationary thing, because it's not. It's a changing heat, pain, or heat and movement, whatever you call it. By nature, it's moving. That's what it is. And itch is the same. Itch is just a minor form of pain, isn't it? Itching is just when something's moving. It's heat and movement, but it's not as strong as pain. They're just different points are on the same spectrum, aren't they?
Mm.
Itching is when it's starting to move and be hot, but it's not very much. So it doesn't actually, you therefore don't label it as pain because it's not moving fast enough. As soon as it starts moving faster, the atoms are moving faster and the heat is more, you then label it as pain. But the point is here, as with Lama Lundu, whether you label it as pain or not is up to you. You don't have to label it as pain. And that doesn't mean you don't deal with it. So if the Buddha, and there are stories out there, the Buddha was injured by Devadatta who had a thorn in his foot at one time, and so the Buddha was injured, but he wouldn't have, but he would react to that injury, just as Lama Lundu reacted to his sickness, in that he had to deal with it. As pain, but he didn't label it as pain. Rather, he just saw it as heat as movement and didn't react negatively to it, and therefore didn't suffer from it. That's the important thing. He didn't suffer.
Just going to turn it off. I think it's really starting. No, you're back on Fiona, you're alright.
Technology hates us.
Yeah, I didn't touch it.
So is that clear? Is the difference between sense and mental consciousness clear?
Obviously, how you actually do that is not clear. I mean, because it's one thing to say, I can understand the concept of not labelling it, but I can only understand it in relation to like emptiness. I don't understand what.
Yeah, I was thinking once I'm inside that meditation, suddenly it's not an easy thing, is it, to feel those separations?
The thing is that, whatever, if you take the example of pain, the reason we have pain, and the reason why we label it from an evolutionary point of view, is that if we didn't label it as negative and react badly to it, we wouldn't deal with it. So you cut your leg, and if you don't, our minds the evolution of our minds has gone such that we label that as pain, because if we label it as pain, we do something about it.
You don't want to leave your hand in the fire, do you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you didn't label it as pain, you would leave your hand in the fire. And
You'd die.
have no hand.
You'd probably die.
You'd die.
Yeah.
Quite quick.
But if you think about it, you don't need to label it as negative to do that. Because when the Buddha gets hurt, or when Lama Rinpoche had that stroke, they say that when he went to hospital after the stroke, he was even happier after he had the stroke than he was before. he was even more happy. And
the mind, how you react to it, because the mind plays a crucial role. I remember once put my hand through a window, and it didn't hurt at all. I had a huge gash in my arm, but the body had decided that presumably that having pain wouldn't be no help whatsoever. So there was something chemical going on. I felt no pain whatsoever. And
yeah, there are examples of that. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I can understand that in terms of like adrenaline kicking in. That's quite people can be in horrific
thing rather than
accidents and not feel it until
it was just complete no pain at all. I mean, I was gashed that deep in my arm, but it was completely
pain-free. So the mind can either see it as pain or not.
Yeah.
It's up to the mind.
Yeah.
But the point of the realised beings is, like Lama Rinpoche, is that not only do they not see it as pain, but if you've transformed it in your practice, because he's practiced Tonlen, giving and taking, if you've done thought transformation, when you suffer from pain, you feel happy because, what I wanted has happened. The pain of others has come to me. So not only do you not see it as pain and suffer from it, you feel happier because of it.
No, right, that's true, yeah.
You totally transform it. So the point is here really that you know, that thing which is happening in the body isn't by nature pain. It's just heat and movement. And I'm not talking about ultimate nature here. I'm not talking about emptiness. I'm just talking on the conventional level. Even on normal conventional level, it's not pain. It's heat and movement.
Yeah.
And whether you want to label, and we do all label it as pain because that's what we're habituated to, but you don't have to label it as pain to deal with it. Because if you just see it as heat and movement, you can still understand, oh right, something's just chopped my arm off. I need to do something
It's a lot
about
of heat
it.
and movement.
I need to do something about it or I'm going to die. And you still do something without having to freak out, oh my God, I'm in agony, I can't stand it. You don't need to suffer from it. Do you see what I mean? So, sense and mental consciousness, uncommon. So, just the thing to know with each one of these things, as I put there, because that's where I put the main points here on what you've got there as a handout. How do we distinguish between sense and mental consciousness? Between that, because they have different uncommon imperings. That's what you need to sort of put in your memory. I know it's not just after lunch and everything, it might not be easy, but if you're going to put things in your memory, how will I be able to know quickly, in my understanding, why something, how, or for what reason something is either sense consciousness or a mental consciousness, because it has a different uncommon empowering condition. That's the difference. So then, now the next one is conceptual and non-conceptual consciousness. This is probably the most important division, conceptual and non-conceptual. And I think probably since it's 3:30, we'll break first, because this is the biggest and most important one, is conceptual and non-conceptual. So let's take a 20-minute break and then we'll do this.